guys, another Steam sale is upon us. It's on up to the 20th of March. Now we're going to try and do something different this time. We're going to put the games into genres. So we're going to have driving Tycoon, and Sandbox building games. On the screen now should be the timestamp of that. We'll also place everything to chapters. So each game goes into a chapter and also each genre has its own chapter. Now, just so I won't be asked, EP17, Derail Valley and Factorio are not on sale. So first up, we have driving games. And the first game on the list is Trainz SimWorld 5. So we got 70% discount on both the main and the deluxe. We're going to forget about the special and all the regionals because, well, they're certainly the regionals. I don't see the point of them. Pretty much the same price as the main one, but you get less. So the standard version is $11.99 or $14.99 US, or the deluxe is $17.99 or $22.49 US. Obviously, you just get a few extra things with the deluxe version, a few extra routes. I think the game's a good entry point into driving if you've not played this type of game before. Essentially, you get the base game. You'll get a few routes to actually drive. Within those routes, you'll have a few timetables. So within the main menu, you will choose a route and then a timetable and drive that. The idea is to drive it within the scope of that timetable. It is fairly simple. It's one of the easier games to drive. The graphics are quite nice. It is a newer game. Number 5 has only recently just come out with a few new features. Trainz SimWorld has been out a few years now. It's a replacement for Trainz Simulator, which we're going to look at next. So Trainz Simulator is very similar to Trainz SimWorld. It comes from the same developer, Dovetail Games. This was the original game. Now this one came out over 10 years ago originally, but then it's been updated each year. New versions come out. They renamed it a couple of years ago to Classic to actually express that, yes, it is the older game. They're still updated to make sure it actually is still compatible with newer systems, newer computer systems. They're still bringing out DLC for it as well. Again, it's the same pattern. They will sell you the base game fairly cheaply, and they all hope that you actually buy extra DLC, and that's how they make their money. So the price of the game is, for the base version, is 70% off. It's £7.49, which is $8.99 US, or £10.49, which is $11.99 US. They also have a subscription, which... it's a new thing, isn't it? Which is coming out on quite a few games. Now, actually, this game could be put into two genres, the same as Trainz, actually, because you could quite easily put this into the sandbox mode also. As well as actually driving routes, using the assets from the routes you have bought, you can make your own routes. There is an in-game editor to do that, and whereas if you were starting out, I would say to buy Trainz if you're going to do that over this, because the graphics are simply nicer than this. If you've already got it, you've had routes for many years, there's nothing wrong with this game at all. It's still a great game. So let's move on to Trainz 22. Right, there's two versions, the standard and the platinum. The platinum came out later. It's actually got software updates as well as the extra routes, and the price isn't much different, so I would certainly go for that. So the standard is £6.70, which is $7.99 US, and the written deluxe on my notes is not. As the platinum version comes at £13.81 or $17.49 US. Now I have checked on their website. At this time there are no deals on there, but I will leave a link in the description. I do urge you to have a look there, because sometimes it can be a little bit cheaper to buy it there. Exactly the same game. So gameplay is divided into two parts, as we've said. There's the sandbox mode, which you build your own routes, and there is the driving mode. Driving mode works pretty much like all the other games, where you'll decide on the route you want to drive, the map you want to drive, and then you'll decide the timetable you want to drive. To that, you just drive the stations it tells you to, goes try and stick to the speed limit, etc. It's just like every other type of game. This game could be put into the sandbox mode quite easily. It's how I would play it. I think it's a better sandbox game than it is a driving simulator. So I think if you're starting out, if you just want to drive, I'd go for Trainz SimWorld. Yes, I'd go Trainz SimWorld. And if you want to, if you think you might want to build routes, this would be the better game to go for. Next up, we have Diesel Railcar Simulator. Now, Now, once again, this could be put into the sandbox mode as well as the simulator mode because it does have an editor. You can create your own route if you want. Interesting, you can even create your own loco in the game if you want. You can manipulate the graphics on it. It's I've seen a video of someone do it. It's way beyond what I could do, but yes, it's certainly possible. Also has a nice little community where there's different routes and things you can actually, extra routes you can download on the workshop. The game itself is a UK based. It's fictitious 4 maps. Yes, 4 fictitious maps set in the 1960s. Drive old UK trains. Nothing steam. It's all diesel. I.e. why it's called Diesel Railcar Simulator. I have a lot of videos on the channel of this. It's fun to drive. It's just the simplicity of it. Again, it's pretty open to most people. It's not very technical because obviously in the trains in the 60s weren't. You just had a few levers to pull and push. So yeah, it's 35% off at £10.88 or that's $12.99 US. So the game itself is being constantly updated. The latest update is a graphics update adding fog. What you just saw there, the suspension. It's one thing. After driving this, I tried driving Trainz Sim World. I just sort of similar locos. I preferred it in this game because it has suspension. You roll a bit, which you didn't on the Trainz Sim World. Now, some of the comments I received on that video told me that some of the newer routes in Trainz Sim World will do this, but pretty much everything on this game does. It will play on Steam Deck. It is obviously Linux compatible. All the games thus far have been. Trainz is less so. Some of the menus don't quite work on Linux, but every other game so far does actually work on Linux. Simrail, the railway simulator. So the game's just recently reached version 1. So it's actually left early access now. It's got very, very popular, positive reviews. It doesn't have an editor. What it does have is 2 types of games. You can either drive the train, much like the other previous games. You will pick a route, you pick the timetable, you drive that. But you can also become a signaller, so you can actually direct routes. So I've not tried that, because I've only ever driven the prologue on this personally, but a lot of people say that's fun to do as well. So as I say, it's very popular. Now this is a little bit harder to play than the previous games. That's its thing. It's trying to be a bit more of a simulator than just sort of a general sort of game to play. You can tell me whether it does that well or not. I'm sure there's quite a few probably played it. Anyway, the price is 40% off at the moment. That's £17.70 or that's $20.99 US. Not bad, actually. Not bad for a game which has just recently reached version 1. Zusi 3 Aerosoft Edition. So this game really does try to be a simulator. As you can see, the graphics aren't as good as the other games previously, but it tries to be more faithful. It tries to be more, as I say, more of a simulator than a game. Now, there is a version of this which is used by actual train companies to train their staff. Now, this is obviously the version which is slightly simpler for us to play, but yeah, that's where this is sort of aiming at. So this is 20% off, and this is a lot more money. It's just £46.80, which is $55.99 US. Now, to be very honest with you, this game's far too difficult for me. So I'm just going to read this. It says, enter the virtual cab and experience of a train driver's operations to the highest level of realism possible. Zusi 3 Aerosoft is a train simulator for PCs, the professional version of which is also being used for railway companies for the engine driver training purposes. Features faithful track creations, authentic driving and braking behaviour, prototypical signalling and timetables, as well as various variants of train protection systems, EZB and LZB. So it's trying to be real. So if you really want to drive something that's faithful to the real thing, this is probably one of those games you could try. Train Crew. So this is a Japanese game. It's based on one fictitious route. It's one of those games where it wants you to be accurate. So you can either be a driver or you can be a conductor. You've got to do it very accurately within the time. So there will be, you'll get marked down quite heavily, or even you'll just end up stopping if you don't do it correctly. So you need to be at a station at a certain time. So the Japanese rail, everyone knows the Japanese rails are very accurate. They give apologies if they're just a few seconds out. So that's what this game's about. There is a demo, and I would urge you to have a go at it because it's just part of the route. Graphics a little bit basic, but it plays fairly well actually. The price of the game is £11.43, 20% off, and that is $13.59 US. Well worth taking a look at the demo. So now we move on to Japanese Rail Sim. So this is one of those games which is a real camera basically from the front of a train, and the way they do it, they speed up and slow down the footage. And they say they put this sort of overlay on top. This controller, it will play on obviously keyboard and mouse as well. It's pretty simple. Now, the problem with this type of game is you can't left or right. You just can only look forward. But it's a very beautiful game. But that is the point, isn't it? And again, just like the previous game, it's a Japanese game. The point is to actually get there on time. So you'll be marked up and marked down depending on how quickly you actually do it. Now the Sonic Power, they've actually brought a new version, a new game as well. So this is the first time I've seen this one on sale. So it's a Japanese rail sim, Hakone Town out of natural beauty and hot springs. It's going to be exactly the same. This one is £31.49, which is $34.99 US. And I don't think I said the price of the other one, did I? Or did I? It's £11.62, the previous one, or it's $14.99 US. Both of them are going to be very, very similar. Driving Tycoon games. So these are generally games that you will drive the engines and locos, but they have some sort of tycoon element or money element involved. They don't really fit in the simulation section, but they also don't fit in the tycoon section. Not really. So yeah, let's give them their own section. Driving Tycoons. So first up is Railroads Online. Such a divisive game. Such a divisive game. One I still enjoy. There are 4 maps currently. It's just recently reached version 1. It also has a few issues with the after version 1 release, which I'm sure you're going to tell me in the comments about. But don't worry, I already know them. So in the game, you'll choose your map. You will then load onto the map. You can choose one of 3 or 4 engines to start off with. You'll have a little bit of money, I think, to actually do some stuff with. Lane track is actually free. The idea of the game is to connect different industries and get those products back to the main station, the goods station, and actually sell them. It's a fairly simple premise. There are also some chains of goods, so you'll want to put various things together, like wood and coal or something, I don't know, to actually that's dangerous, to actually make your final product. You can just take the raw product back, but it's better to take the finished product back. It does take a while to do. You can play it by yourself, you can play it with multiple people. It's currently £20.65, that's 30% off, and that is $24.49 US. There's also a bundle. I haven't bothered checking the prices there in US. Essentially, there's 2 small DLCs. If you bought the game before version 1, you get one of these for free anyway, and then the other one is like £3 or something. It adds a little extra onto it. They add a few extra bits of scenery, a couple of extra locos. Nothing that much. You don't actually need them at all. Railroader. Ooh, just like Railroads Online, we've got a lot of videos on the channel on this. I did a whole series where we opened the whole map. So that's it. You basically start, you have one map, you load in, it gives you pretty much a little tutorial how to get started. You start with 2 locos, one of them's broken, which you then have to go and fix. So again, that's a part of the tutorial to actually start to tell you what to do. It's a small part of the map open. The whole idea is to deliver goods. So some of the industries will want things, and they want you to deliver something to them, and they will create a product which you take back to the main station. Each delivery you make a little bit of money, and after a while, you can actually then open up other parts of the map and do other things. There's things you can essentially buy. But as you're going to see in a second, he's just come off on that video clip. You do things like this, you're going to cost money because the locos can get damaged. And you will have to pay to refuel them. Water, actually no, water's free, but you'll need to pay for coal. And once in a while, the train will get damaged. It will just break down. There's a wear and tear. So it's an ongoing price to actually to do this. It's multiplayer, as you can see, there's more than one person playing. I did the whole series by myself, and actually opening up the whole map is really difficult to do that. There's a bit of automation on there, so you can get the AI drivers, as they call it, to actually drive from A to B. You can do a passenger service, for instance, and get it to drive along the line. It's quite a basic AI. It won't reroute things. Most of the line is single track with some double track parts where you can pass. It won't pass trains round it. They'll drive into each other. But they will stop at the signal essentially. But yeah, so it's quite basic, and you do have to keep an eye on it. It's quite a quaint little game. I really enjoy it actually. The driving experience is pretty simple. It doesn't try to be difficult. You don't have to fire the engine or anything. As long as you keep them cold and you keep them in water, they're absolutely fine. So it's 10% off, £22.49, or is $26.99 US. Well worth it actually. It's something you can actually lay quite a few hours on. Plays on Windows and Linux. You can even just about play it on the Steam Deck. Train Life. I'm probably going to get downvoted on this video for even putting this on. Again, it's one of those divisive games. You can see it's 75% off at £4.24, which is $4.99 US. It reached, I think, version 1. It doesn't say early access, but it didn't add in the features, and it's broken according to players. I only played it a little bit, and there's some videos on the channel. I didn't really like it that much, if I'm honest, but it was okay. There's nothing... I didn't find anything technically wrong, but I didn't play it long enough to find anything technically wrong. I suspect the people who have actually played it longer, and you will notice things which aren't right if that's the way. Graphics are fine. You don't need a really powerful PC to play it, but yeah, it's like the other games. You're basically you have a map. I think it is there right now, and supposedly it's parts of Europe, I think, but you can drive from London to Paris and places like that. There's different industries. You want to do different jobs. You'll make money from doing that. You can take passengers and stuff. It's one of those divisive games. You're either going to like it or you're not. But for £4.24, 75% off. If you want to buy it, now's the time. Now, this game isn't on sale yet. It's not even out yet, but I'm going to mention it because it's going to be in this genre when it does. Basically, Century of Steam, coming out at some point. And the game takes you through a century of railroading in America. Yes. And there's going to be various maps. I have no idea when this is coming out. Don't know what the price is going to be. Anything like that, but it will certainly be very similar to the other games. I thought I'd mention it because probably you know about it. But if you don't, here it is, Century of Steam. Go and wishlist it. Tycoon games. Essentially, you're using the train to make money or build up the map in some way. The train themselves are generally automated. You won't drive them. So first up on our Tycoon games is Transport Fever 2. Third in the series, Train Fever, Transport Fever 2. Excellent game. Excellent game. Came out in December 19. Crikey. Such a long time ago. And I know some people are wanting the new game, but it's brought out so many updates. It is, it's Linux. Native Linux, as well as Windows, obviously. It's got controller support. Graphics work well. Why aren't you starting? Let's play. Would be a good idea. You can see it's very positive. It has multiple maps. It's got mod support, it's got everything, it really does. So in the game, you'll load up the map and you'll want to connect your cities. There is also a campaign if you want to do that, but it's nothing I've really got into, to be honest. It's the open play nature of it. Open the map and do what you want. Got a series at the moment on the channel, which I think is episode 1 currently out, episode 41 currently out. As you can see with that, you can build modular stations. It's all kinds of things. So you want to do passengers, you want to do industries. There'll be industry chains. And the whole point is to build the map up. As many trains as you want. As many trains as you can get onto that map. Many different sizes of map. You create your own. You can download them off the workshop. You don't just do trains, you do vehicles, planes, ships. That's why it's Transport Fever. The original game was Train Fever, but it added some more in and the name didn't really fit any longer. But no, I really do recommend this game. So the base game is 75% off. 75% off is £8.37, and I'm on the wrong page. That's $9.99 US. Absolutely worth it. A-Train 9 version 4. So it's very similar to Transport Fever. Basically, it's a tycoon game. You want to build your routes up. You want to set the trains off and do their things, and you will make money from that. Ride on board. It's 60% off at $19.99, which is $23.99 US. What gets me about this game is the Japanese version is now on version 5, the final version, and we are in the West when you get version 4. There's lots of talk about the version 5 coming. Whether it actually does, I don't know. You can buy it from Japan and get it imported in a physical disc if you want to do that. Hopefully it will come at some point. Why do I want version 5? Well, go and find the videos. Go and look it up on YouTube at A-Train 9 version 5. There's certain things, for instance, it can do a runaround, can detach the loco from the carriages, stuff like that. You can actually go and put them away. You can drive them a little bit as well. So there's things in that version which you can't do here. The graphics aren't going to be that much better than this. Transport Fever's graphics are better. Yeah, I would wait for version 5 personally. Railroad Corporation 2. Yeah, so it's obviously a 1. You load up your map, you connect things, the trains run automatically, you make money, that sort of thing. Exactly the same as the other two games. They are tycoon games, essentially, aren't they? This is the second version. It's being worked on. It's an early access. It's got a small team behind it. Latest add-on, well, we looked at this game around just before Christmas, I think, and it only had the snowbats, which you're showing at the moment. But now you can have other types of maps. There is even a map generator. If I go down further into the news, yeah, you get this screen here. So if I put that in the center and then zoom it on, essentially you have 3 areas. Over here, you've got what's starting cash, you got how many objectives you want, you have what's on the map on this side. The map then gets presented, you press play. It was a little jerky when I tried this earlier just before the video to make sure it actually worked, but it did create it. There's a few things wrong with this intro here which I don't like. Some of the angles, we are basically angled down. See, you don't get this angle there. Maybe it's intended for the future, but at the moment, the quality of the assets is quite low. You get basically look down like that. That's all you can do. You can't look across. Some of the shots on here, like this one here, suggest you will be able to, or you can do that. You can't. You're always looking downwards at an angle. And the assets are quite low poly. Hopefully that will change. Yeah, you can't do this angle as well, or this angle. Not that I can see, maybe I'm wrong, but I've tried every key that I can find, but it is like you're seeing here. I think it's got potential. The price itself is 20% off. It's £19.99, which equates to $23.99 US. Sweet Transit. This is a pretty good game, actually. You auto-generate a map. You decide I think you decide the scale, but you auto-generate a map. Then you place your city. You try and place the city near to some resources. The idea is you're trying to feed those resources into the city or multiple cities to actually make them grow. And you probably will want multiple cities because it's difficult getting the people, the workers to the industries. And that's something you have to do to actually make them work. No people means no industry working. You can see it's actually the recent reviews are mixed. I think that's down to some updates they did. Originally, the sections, like you'd have a section for like a square area for the city. You'd have another square area for an industry or a mine or something. You couldn't overlap those. Now you can. They got rid of that. So you can put cities right on top of mines if you really want to. But to couple with that, once you got to the city before, you used to be able to just deliver it to the city and that was it. Pretty much it. But now you have couriers in the city and you have to courier it to wherever you need it within the city. So it's a bit more difficult. And I found it was okay to play like that, but it wasn't as fun as it was before. There's also another issue which I remember having as well, that you can do mixed trains for passengers and goods. So you could take workers to there and then pick the goods up, or multiple goods. And it sometimes didn't like that. So you'd have to do multiple runs. And you'd want to do that early on because you don't have the money to buy multiple trains. So it doesn't seem to ever got fixed, but yeah, it will work. You just have to mess around with it to make it work. It's 60% off. It's at $9.99, which is $11.99 US. I think that's worth it. It works on Linux. It works on Steam Deck. In fact, the controls have been adapted for Steam Deck on this. You can play this at 5 watts. I'd still choose something like Transport Fever over this, but once you've got bored with that game, come try this one. Railgrade. Yeah, I bought this ages ago on Epic when it first came out because it was an exclusive on there. So yeah, it's been on Steam for a while now, but it's 50% off at £12.49, which is $14.99 US. It's a good price. It does have its issues. Now, there's two types of gameplay. There's campaign, which you have set things you have to do within a time frame to actually be able to proceed. Once you've actually done that map, that map, you know, whatever objective on that map, you can go onto another map. You'll see this little track thing on the main menu, sort of taking you from one map to the next. Then they recently added in, I say recent, it's probably a year ago now. Crikey, doesn't time fly? Just what they call a sandbox mode. I call it an open play mode. Very much like the other games where you can pretty much do what you want. You will open your map up. Does it auto generate? I think it might do. I think you might have some options to be able to create a map. Then you will place your city. Then you're trying to grow this city with the resources on the ground, and you're trying to sell it as well. Those blimp things, that blimp thing you just saw there, that takes things off world, and you can make money from doing that. So if you deliver something to the building which that blimp lands to, you will make money essentially. But you also want to give other stuff to the city so it can actually grow. Now the problem with this, you've seen a lot of trains there, is that each train, you don't have a route. For instance, on Transport Fever, you'd create a route and put trains onto it. So if you want to adapt that route, every train on that would adapt. However, on this game, you do everything per train. And so you will need a lot of trains on this. And so when it's times, you will want to upgrade, because as you progress, you need to move things around. And changing every last train to do what you need it to do is very difficult. Now, I haven't played this for about 6 months. Maybe it's been fixed, but I don't think it has. Fun game, more arcadey. Railway Empire 2. Yes, this is a game we played quite a few times on the channel. I think Transport Fever is better than this, if I'm honest. But there's various types of games styles of play you can do within this game. You've got campaign, or you can get these open play. They bring out extra maps as DLC, which you can buy. Again, on the open play, you would have you just open the map up and basically just place down your track, your stations, and build your network up. On the campaign, you'll be told what to do, and sometimes you've got multiple players onto it. I think is it actually properly multiplayer? Yes, it is online co-op. Or if you don't play with other people, you might have some AI sort of you're playing against, and you have to do. There was one where you had to do a race, get from one end of the map to the other before the competitor did. It wasn't that difficult. We did this on the channel a while ago. I mean, it's fun to do. So yeah, this game's more expensive. It's 40% off at £27.59, which is $29.99 US. Plus, obviously, it's got DLC and stuff. You don't need a DLC. You can play it quite happily without. Train World, yes. The graphics on this are much simpler. As you can see, you're building a station there next to a town. You want to fulfill that town's needs. It's much like the others. It's open play, where you build your tracks, you run the trains, they're automated. And for each of your deliveries, you'll make money. Now, unlike the others, the other games, apart from the simpler type of graphics, you get these individual contracts as well, which complicates things. So on the other games, for instance, you'll set up a delivery and it'll be back and forth always. On this, you'll do that, but you have these extra deliveries, which you'll need to do. And I think it's reputation, I think it adds on to this. If you don't do them, your reputation won't be good. I can't remember exactly what that entails, but what if you don't have a good reputation? There's something. If it's the amount of money you can make, I can't remember. It's been about 6 months since I played. But yes, you can see there's you can upgrade and stuff, and yep, and you can see that you have the map where you connect up various things and industries. It's a fun game. It's a simple one to play. Will it play on Linux? Yes, it will. It won't play on Steam Deck, I don't believe. There's no controller support. It's mouse, keyboard and mouse. It's constantly being updated. Now, we recently showcased Train World Driver, I think was the name. That's a game which is going to be coming out. We tried the demo. The graphics are very similar to this. Now, on this type of game, what we got here, I think the graphics are absolutely fine, but as many people commented, on a driving game, not quite good enough. But one thing we didn't know at that time, I didn't know at that time, was although on the demo we tried out as their maps. Well, the idea is you create your map on this game, then you would buy that game. Though I'd have that as an add-on to this game personally. You'd buy that game and you'd be able to drive the routes you've created from this game. So I don't know how that changes your thoughts upon the other game if you did watch that video, but yeah, I thought the driving game was very arcadey. The whole thing was that the speed kept going up and down. You have to try and keep it there. It's a bit, yeah. But maybe that will change. It's very early on with the demo. But this game's not bad and is constantly being updated. It was updated today as well. I think every couple of days it's updated. There's a gigabyte or two of things that have changed. So it's 30% off, £11.72, which is $13.99 US. Railroute, yes. I was recently told there's an update, and there is, isn't there? You can now play co-op. I'm not exactly sure how you play co-op in this game. But yeah, essentially you get this screen, which is like a signaler stroke dispatcher type screen. You start with a very small maple portion open, and the idea is that you're going to manually guide trains through that bit of the track. So as I say, only a tiny bit would be open originally, and then after that you start building more. As you make money, you can open up other things. Now, when I've played this, it was probably about 2 years ago. The first video was everything was done manually. Get the train into the station, tell it to turn round, tell it to leave, click on the points, which are these arrow things, which they go up the right way. I think, oh, that might be the signal. Click on the points to make sure it goes up the right route. Everything was manually done. I felt it excruciatingly boring, if I'm honest. But then, as you play on, so I decided I was going to do a second video after that, because I thought, oh, I didn't like this. I played it on, and you start to automate things, so the train can run through by themselves. And the more you play, the more automated it gets, to the point that you have the whole that massive map you saw at the beginning, which everything's automated. You can still smack trains into each other, and they still won't be happy if you do that, or they get stuck. But if you're routing it, if you're badly routing it, but you can tell them where to go, much like on Transport Fever, you're telling it to go from A to B to C to D and back again, where to go on there. So it's a very interesting concept. It will play on Linux. It will also, it does have some control support. I didn't like it at the time. I haven't tried it for a while. The thing with control support, if you're still using a mouse, you need some sort of magnet. So let's say we want it to go to where it says very positive here. You want it, as you're moving across, to boom, magnetized to there. It didn't have that. So you were kind of moving it about, trying to get to the right position, because some of the little boxes you have to get to are quite small. So certainly at that point, I didn't think control support was very good. It's there if you want it, I just didn't feel it was brilliant. So the keyboard and mouse, brilliant little game. It doesn't take that many resources. I think there's a DLC, isn't there? Yeah, Happy Passengers, and there's a soundtrack, etc. Oh, created map pack. I think you can create your own maps also, so it's got the workshop support. 50% off at the moment, £10.49, which is at $12.49 US. It's, you know, it's a different type of game. I think, yeah, you should try it, or at least go and watch my videos on it. Station to station. You can hear in my voice, I laugh a little bit. It's a very arcadey game. It reminds me of Railgrade. You can see it's very stylized, the graphics. I actually like the graphics. A lot of you didn't when I mentioned this before. We did play a few. So it's a campaign, essentially, where you will be given a map and you have to complete it. Generally within a certain time. You will make money from doing that. If you might be given a task that you have to end up with so much money by the end. If you don't do that, you fail. So even if you've passed it, if you don't do that, you fail. So I'm not sure how popular it was, because as you can see, it's 50% off at £7.49, which is $8.99 US. But I don't know, the reviews are very positive, but I don't know, certainly on my channel that was less so, the commenters. I like it. I certainly like it. You can play. It's got control support. You can play it on Steam Deck. You can play it on Linux. Obviously, PC, Windows as well. It's more of a puzzle game, I'd say, as well. But I've classed it in here because it doesn't really fit anywhere else in the video. Sandbox games. So these are train games that allow you just to build. And then once you've built something, you can put your train on and run it. Tracks, the train set game. So essentially, there's two modes to this game. There's the sandbox bit, which we're looking at there. We've played this on the channel as well. You can pretty much lay a bit of wooden track, put multiple trains, I believe now. It used to be one train. I think you can have multiple on there now. And drive the train about. Very simple. It's based on the old type of wooden tracks you would have got. You know, you can still buy them. I think I bought my daughter a set when she's very, very small. But yes, you can build pretty much anything you want. The other thing is a little campaign thing where you have certain stations which are on a map. It's not going to show you, is it? I was wondering if it was going to show on the video. There's certain stations dotted around a room, and you have to get passengers from one to another. That's the campaign thing. Once you've done one level, you get onto another level, etc., etc. But the main part of the game really is to actually go and build your own stuff. The game's very optimized. It's out on Switch, so what else can you say? It hadn't been updated for ages, but I've noticed that lately there's a couple of updates come out. Is it anything on the news? Where's the news thing for it? Here we go. So yeah, just one came out March 13th, which was yesterday at time of recording. So I'm not sure where this game's going, if they can continually sort of add stuff to it, but it's pretty rounded right now. It can be played. It doesn't really need anything else. Yes, DLCs and a few more scenery things would be nice, but I think it's quite playable. It's 50% off right now. It's at $9.99, which is well, age again on my other thing. Tracks $9.99, which is $9.99 US. Really? Okay, so they've obviously adjusted the price, so it's $9.99 UK and US. Train Yard Builder. Now this game has two modes of play. It's sort of a campaign type thing and a sandbox. You can't access sandbox until you've done a little bit of the campaign though. The sandbox basically opens up everything. That's all it does really. In the campaign you are tasked to build certain things, and then, or maybe you want to repair a loco. It's quite simple. It's not difficult to play. The graphics are also quite simple, which is, yeah, that's where the game sort of lacks really, is the graphics. And the wheels on a lot of the locos don't move around, the bogies don't really turn. I recently did a video on Hornby Model Railway game, which was 20 years ago. That has more features than this game does. Yeah, there you go. You cannot detach, for instance, the loco from the carriages. Until recently, you could not actually go. You drive the loco, but you couldn't go reverse. They finally added that in. But the controls for driving is not great. It takes up half the screen, the actual controls. You can see it on the screen there. And you have to have the main menu up as well. You can't just have the controller up. It's got potential if they changed it, but I don't think they're going to. I think this is what the game's going to be. You might have some small little updates if there's a problem with it, but I really don't see any substantial change. It's a shame because it really did have some potential, this game. But there's one train, which I think it's the Flying Scotsman, I think they put on there, which the wheels did actually turn. But the problem is they don't turn to the same speed of the speed the loco is actually going. I think this is a static model. What you're really doing is you're not really wanting to run anything on this. You can have multiple, you can run multiple trains, but you probably want to put them on different tracks, completely separate tracks, and just have it running around in a circle or something. Don't have anything interactive because it's difficult. You can't, for instance, because you can't decouple anything, you can't put any wagons from one side into another. That was the loco there, yeah, which the wheels do move. None of the other wheels move. The bogies don't move round. If you look closely at the bogies, they don't move round. I know I keep saying this, it's disappointing. That's the problem with it, it's disappointing. It could have been better. We need a simple sandbox game for people to play. Because I'm going to mention a couple other games again, which we've already mentioned in the video. So you saw it there with the bogies didn't turn on that train. What we need is a simple game for people just to mess around with. But it just needs a few extra features than what this one gave. It's hey ho, it is what it is. Anyway, so it's 30% off, £11.72, which is £13.99. The price is fine. Until you know that Humble the other day had a bundle with this and a few other games for around the same price. Yeah, it's okay. Train Frontier Classic. So this was an Xbox 360 game originally, I believe. It doesn't say it, but it does have controller support as well. It works on Windows and Steam. Windows and Linux. It does work on Linux. Makes my fan blow like anything on the PC, so it's maybe not optimized. It has been updated, the graphics, so they have been working on it not so long ago. September 2024. The classic public test available now, so you can click on it to update to that. Price is very low. It's 40% off at £4.19, which is $5.99 US. Yes, it's a pure sandbox game. You build your tracks. You can build anything. It's not meant to look real at all in this game. Yeah, it is what it is. It's not trying to be anything. It's not trying to be a simulator, but you can drive trains. You can lay stuff. It's got multiplayer. What more can you ask? Rolling Line. What a fantastic game. I really like this game. Build your own model railway tracks and scenery or explore pre-made layouts. It says it there. It's perfect. That's exactly what you do. You load into the game. You can either load in some pre-made layouts and just drive those, or you can actually enter a completely empty room, put boards down, put tracks down, put scenery down, put your locos down and start driving that. There is a small bit of automation. I always say that. Automation in there. It uses flags you put next to the tracks, such as stop for 10 seconds or something like that. So you put those near stations. It's very basic. Nothing like you'd get with, say, Trainz or Transport Fever, for instance, where you can really finitely get, make those do what you want. But even so, you can run about unlimited amount of trains. You can get into each train, drive it that way. which I think he's doing now in first person, because this is a VR game, so that's primarily probably how you'd play it there. But also, you have a little controller as you're looking at the board, and you can point that controller at the train. You can make it do something. Stop, you know, that's the controller there on the screen. And you can make it, yeah, here we go, so some VR now, getting in. Got these really basic controls. I'm not a particularly fan of those controls, but using that controller, looking up from above, fantastic, because you can control multiple trains doing things. It's a really nice way of doing it. It's done like that because it's VR, and so it's meant to look immersive, basically. But you certainly don't need to be use VR. There's the controller again. It's keyboard and mouse. It's controller support. I've never used a controller on it, I have to admit. Should try that. Certainly have made it quite a big layout, which is on the workshop. Did a series on it if you want to go and watch that. It's we try to make it a little bit more real. The developer actually came and said it looks very whimsical, which I thought was great. Nice. It's always nice when the developer actually mentions you and actually, you know, gives you feedback. But I really like this game. Anyway, yes, it is on sale. It's 25% off at £11.61, which is at $14.99. Honestly, if you were looking at this or Train Yard Builder, you'd get this. You really would. It's, as I say, it's night and day between those two games. Train Frontier Classic is a bit of fun. Tracks is a bit of fun. Train Yard Builder tries to be a simple building game, but that's really for static models. This game is a little bit more difficult to get your head around to build, but once you have, what you can build is so much bigger than what you could on Train Yard Builder. Train Yard Builder, you get one sandbox layout. That's it. Once you've played it, you have to delete it and do it again. You can obviously play the other part of the game, but we're talking sandbox here. This, you can have as many different tables and rooms as you want. There is no limit. And it's got workshop support, so there's really an unlimited amount of scenery, trains, locos, carriages, wagons. As I've said earlier, the game is being constantly updated. Where's the news? So it's this sort of Shay loco, lumber loading. So it's actually so it's little things like this and like brilliant animation. So he's working on this is to go on the layout, which he's working on the developer's layout. Working on there's that Shay again. But this is the loading he's just added on. How great is that? So you can have loading or unloading using this. This is a fantastic game. So much potential. I love the fact that he's just constantly adding stuff to it. Really, really recommend this game. Now you do have 3 other options for sandbox games. Now these have been part of the other earlier parts of the video, so I won't go through them too much. Transport Fever. It has a Sandbox mode, which means you can play it without actually using any type of money, so you don't have to play as a Tycoon game. The only thing is you cannot drive trains, and once the train gets to the end of the track, you wouldn't do a run around, for instance, it just flips round. Other than that, it's a fantastic game. You have thousands upon thousands of assets in the workshop, which you can actually use to build something. You basically pay your £8.37, and then you have unlimited fun, basically, because you can make whatever you want. And some of these models, as you can see, are fantastic looking. You can really make something look really intricate and fantastic. Now you have 2 other options. You have Trainz 22 and you have Trainz Simrail. And both of these games we'll put into the driving section of the video. Mostly because I think the majority of you will play these as driving simulators. But both of them have a route editor. If you already got Train Simulator Classic, if you got lots of routes and stuff on this, go for this. It's fine. You don't need to then buy this on top of that. But it's not going to really be updated. The game is updated just so it can continue to play on newer systems. Whereas Trainz is constantly being updated. So this would be the one, if you're looking for a sandbox game, which is ultra real, this would be the one to go for. Now, unlike Transport Fever and Rolling Line, where these are basically your assets on the workshop, Trainz holds its the third-party assets, the assets you and I would make, for instance, on its own servers. And there is a cost to actually get this. They call it a ticket, and you would need to buy either a day, week, month, or year of that. If you rent the game, you get it for free. You get that as part of it. But if you buy the game, you have to actually essentially rent access to the actual to their version of the workshop. It's got thousands of assets on it again. However, the assets are not all brand new. Some of them are up to 10 years old, and so they're not as optimized maybe as they could be. They're great. They're of a higher resolution generally than you would get for Transport Fever. The other thing you can do with Trainz, for instance, is say you took a map from Google Maps and you could put that into the game. You could trace over it. Now, there's third-party tools to do that. It's not directly in the game, but if you wanted to make an exact route from somewhere, you could actually do that in this game, where it'd be far more difficult to do that on Transport Fever. I don't think there's any way to import it. I've not seen any other way to import it. So out of the ones for the simulation, I would probably recommend Trainz 22, Transport Fever, or Rolling Line. There's the three I would probably go for. If you're looking for something you got no additional cost, or two games you got no additional cost, by Rolling Line or Transport Fever, because both of those have got extra assets on the workshop for free, whereas you would need to pay for access to get these. That said, because if you bought the Platinum, you get all these different routes on it, and you can use all these assets, all the assets from these routes. So as long as you don't want to share the route you make, and it's just for you, it doesn't matter what you use. You could use that. And that's the problem with Train Simulator, that it does have free assets, but you can't get access to them in the game. You have to do it via third-party sites. But what you can do is use assets from routes. But if you wanted to share the routes that you make, then anyone who played that route would also need to have the routes you've purchased. Whatever the assets you use from these routes, let's say you use it from this London to Ramsgate scenery pack, they would have to have that as well. So with this run and Trainz, you have to be really careful on that. Whereas, let's say Rolling Line, everything's on the workshop. You basically just have to say which assets you're using, and that's it. Everyone would have access to them. It would automatically download the assets for them. It's brilliant. So it's much, much simpler. But if you're looking for something dead real, Trainz 22 would be the probably one to go for. If you're just looking for something with no extra cost, it would be Rolling Line or Transport Fever. All three games are fantastic. Whichever one you're going to get, you'd be happy. In the description, I'll list to this search I did from simple Trainz on there, Trainz and special offers on Steam. I'll list most of them on here, which we've got on this list, which you can have another look at. Also put a link into SteamDB, excellent site. So if you want to know stuff about this, all you have to do is you put, let's say Train Sim World 5, click on there for a second. Just click on there, click on there. There you go, so it goes to that one. It gives you things like price history. We got it in US dollars at the moment. So this is where I got the US dollars from. But then you can have stuff like graphs. You can set your currency. You can be in any currency. There we go. You see, this is quite useful if you're wondering, is this the right time to buy a game? Lots of others which I haven't actually added on as well. It's like if you want puzzle games like Unrailed, Void Train, set in space. There's quite a few on sale at the moment. Anyway, for this video, in fact, that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press the like button. See more, please subscribe and press that ding-a-dong bell button. You know what it does. See you next time. Bye, bye.